only on the holidays.
Holiday edition. The
Big events only.
Part 100. We're live, baby. Back at it again here on the State of Football, and we've got a special show for you here. This is our 100th episode. I'm so proud to bring that to you. And to do that, we have a heavy hitter all-star lineup. It's brought to you by the NFLDraftBible.com. And we have a very, very exciting announcement coming soon, a new website on the way. And here on the State of Football, your new home for real football talk in the mornings, we've got a jam-packed Football Friday lineup with some Friday Night Lights tonight. We've got NCAA conference championships we'll dive into, NFL games with playoff implications, and we'll talk about what those ramifications are. Of course, Ric Serritella here, broadcasting live at the Jersey studios, broadcasting around the globe. We are international. And a big shout out to all our chat room peeps, all the NFL Draft Bible familiar who join us each and every day. And to get this party started is my co-host each and every day here on the State of Football, John Murphy down in New Orleans. Of course, Vice President of Player Personnel for the Toronto Argonauts, two-time Grey Cup champion. John, how are you today?
Doing awesome. Nice to see a familiar face. Justin on show 1 and then show 100. So just seeing at show 150.
Well, it's the 100th show, so we had to bring in the heavy hitters. I said, Justin, are you around Friday to hop on? Of course, 5 Sport Management, Justin VanFulpen joining the show, always hitting us with news and nuggets. Justin, how are you today?
Yeah, great. As far as we're wrapping up the college football season with the championship games this weekend, and then on to what we'll see in terms of what bowl games go, and then obviously the NFL. So it's always a good time here when we're getting down to the end of the season.
And the snow angel spared you guys in Michigan, I believe. You didn't get hit like we did here.
No, not like you guys. So we're glad.
So you're doing better than I. And of course, Big Law, Lawrence Johnson, 7 City Shop Talk, Woo World Radio, NFL Draft Tailgate Show host. He'll be live tomorrow, 10 a.m. Eastern, of course, with the NFL Draft Bible Scouting Department. And, of course, here every Friday for the Football Friday edition, Big Law. How are we doing today?
I'm doing pretty good, man. This is the kind of year that, you never know what's going to happen, but what does happen or what is going on is the holidays, which I'm very excited about all the time. And it kind of saddens me a little bit that football is winding down whenever we get to this time of the year. But, we're finding out who is, who are going to be the studs of the season as far as the teams go. And I'm excited to see how it all shakes out.
Yeah, and hey, this time a month ago down there in the Hampton Roads, nobody thought the Redskins would be playing for Washington football team, I should say, would be playing for a playoff. Hey, we'll talk about that. We'll get into little Seahawks, Washington. We'll talk Eagles, Cardinals. We'll talk Chiefs and Saints, of course. But we begin with last night's game, little Thursday night football recap. The Chargers pulling it out in overtime. John, 2 consecutive victories here for Coach Lynn, and maybe the Chargers now are turning the corner, finding a way to win these close games. Your thoughts?
Yeah, well, you still see some of the things that have, kind of given them issues. 2 more special teams, kind of errors, missing field goals left and right pretty much. Now they're at 9, so that's, I think, the most in the league. But at least no returns, so that's a good thing. No big returns there. I think this is going to be very interesting for the organization and the GM to decide. Do you, and they asked Justin Herbert a really tough question after the game, about like, hey, you're hearing all this stuff about your coaching staff. How hard will it be if you have to spend an offseason instead of, furthering, your knowledge of the current system, working in a new one. So welcome to the NFL, to get that question after a win last night. But I think that's a really good point. They've done some good things offensively. He's obviously now like either tied or set the record, right, for rookie touchdowns, in a season. Do you wipe everybody out? Do you give Lynn and some of the offense, a chance to come back? And hire a different defensive coordinator. It really does seem like, Ingram and a couple of the vets are not going to be there, after this season. And obviously you have to hire a new special teams coordinator. It's rare to see that much turnover without the head coach. There's a shot here if they go 1-1. I think even if they play well in these 2 games coming up, win or lose, you're going to have to really look at what's going on offensively and what's best for your organization. And Justin Herbert is steering that ship. And do you really want to do that, and not know the result of what you're going to get? Because how he works with the next person. Remember Philadelphia right now, right? Look at Atlanta, and stuff. You shake up, guys, OCs. There's a reason that the good teams don't do that, right? There's a reason Josh McDaniels, even though he's turned down stuff, there's a reason the Patriots have always let him kind of go out, do his own thing, and then come back. So it'll be very interesting there. That might be one that, they hit a little reset, and allow Lynn to come back with the offensive staff and then go do something very different on defense and hire a special teams coordinator and, tell Anthony Lynn not to dial anybody in the offseason. You are not allowed to interview anybody who is friends or family. You have to look outside that little black book and not hire any friends and family on the coaching staff. And then I think that they could stick with what they're doing. And then next year, I believe that, again, that's a very interesting division moving forward to now see, is this, something you could look at a year from now and say where we thought the Raiders could then take that step and be the clear-cut number 2. Now it looks like they've all kind of come back to the pack. Good news for the Chiefs, bad news for everybody else. And did you notice Gruden at the beginning of the game? He was old school, literally old school, wearing an Oakland Raiders hat until they gave him a Vegas Raiders hat. So I guess he was, trying to get a little luck, going there for him. It didn't work, but I was impressed by Mariota. There's, that talk is now not going away. So Derek Carr may have pulled his groin, but he also may have gotten pulled from his job. So that's going to be a pretty interesting scenario. Mariota gives you a little something different in that offense. If he's running for 60, 70 yards at a clip, and I think you saw the little spark you saw that the Eagles got out of Hurts, you saw something different, last night with that Raider offense with him in there. It's just, boy, that defense is brutal.
Yeah, and, Derek Carr, it looks like his season's going to be over with the groin injury. So Marcus Mariota will have a little audition here late in the season. I think that was a 1-year deal. So he's
17.
Was it 2 years?
Yeah.
Okay, so there you go. There could be a quarterback controversy in Las Vegas next year. And you mentioned Jalen Hurts. Let's shift gears a little bit. Let's go over to the NFL docket. You mentioned Jalen Hurts, and we've got the battle of the Oklahoma quarterbacks and Jalen Hurts versus Kyler Murray, Justin. The Eagles 4-8-1, still alive. That one tie could come into factor here if they can find a way to win some games down the stretch. They visit Arizona 7-6, also alive in the wild card hunt, but they seem to kind of lost some of their luster here down the home stretch.
Yeah, obviously, Arizona started really hot in terms of, winning a number of games, and then had a losing streak and only really saved that by that Hail Murray there to DeAndre Hopkins to beat the Buffalo Bills. But they was able to win last week to really kind of keep their 7th slot in the playoffs there. Obviously, the Eagles, they have a lot of money invested into Carson Wentz. In terms of what they will be able to do with them, what they see going forward. Will there be a shakeup with the GM, with Howie Roseman? Will they do something with the coaching staff there? I think that depends on what happens these next 3 weeks, and if they're able to win the NFC East and be able to, as far as going to the playoffs, this is a huge game for them. Obviously, they got some spark, like John said, in terms of with Jalen Hurts. Can they continue to ride that momentum there? And obviously, the Arizona Cardinals, they need this game to continue to have that stranglehold there on that 7th spot. Obviously, the Minnesota Vikings and the Chicago Bears play. That's kind of a de facto playoff game. Whoever loses there will kind of be out of it, but whoever wins, will still have a shot depending on what Arizona does. Even as far as here in Michigan, the Detroit Lions still have a shot if some things happen there. There's a 1.111 chance, but they would need, obviously the Philadelphia Eagles to beat the Arizona Cardinals. So a big game here between, like you said, the two Oklahoma quarterbacks and guys that, one that won the Heisman and one that was the runner-up for the Heisman last year.
Hey, it's Christmas season. It's always nice to be believing and dreaming, keeping those Detroit Lions mathematically involved. Get the mathematician out because we got to calculate how that can actually happen. But, Eagles at Cardinals, I think this is going to be a closer game than people think, and the Eagles are going to go down with the puncher's fight. How about Larry Fitzgerald, though? I mean, what this guy has done, he needs 5 more catches. He's sitting at 45 receptions. 5 more catches, and it will be his 17th consecutive season of 50 receptions. 17th consecutive season. Only Jerry Rice. He will tie Jerry Rice. And, oh, by the way, he's now second in NFL history behind good old Jerry in receptions and receiving yards. I mean, the man has 1,423 receptions and 17,429 receiving yards. So hats off to Larry Fitzgerald. We'll keep an eye on that game. And then, of course, Big Law, I know you're going to be tuned in on Sunday with the Washington football team, 6-7, hosting the Seattle Seahawks, 9-4. Here they come. And Washington has actually won 7 of the last 8 games against Seattle. With the Seattle win or Minnesota and Chicago tie, I guess Seattle will clinch a playoff berth. But I think there's more riding on the line. I think the pressure is actually on the Washington football team here.
I think that the pressure's on this team. They won 4 in a row. You said 7 out of 8, but also even better 4 in a row. That's a feat that they really haven't put together since a run with RG3 and the other run with Kirk Cousins when they've gone on late runs at the end of the year, and they're on another one. Now, the question is, we were just talking about the quarterback is who is it going to be? Is it going to be Alex Smith? Is it going to be Dwayne Haskins? That is, in my opinion, is really going to give us an idea of how far this team is going to go. Alex Smith nursing a calf injury on that injured leg, and Ron Rivera doing the right thing, playing the gamesmanship role as a coach, not letting the competition know exactly how these injuries are shaking out during the week. So, it'll still be a mystery up until warm-ups probably, and maybe all the way up until kickoff. But the bigger story is the defense from these Washington football players. Now, Chase Young, we all knew he was going to come in and be a freakazoid. He's exactly what he is. Kind of puts me in the mind of my man who came out of North Carolina, similar body style, was a basketball player, Julius Peppers. Maybe not quite as thick, but has that kind of bend, athleticism, and explosion you look for playing against a left tackle in the NFL. And then on the other side, you got another guy, Montez Sweat, 6'6", 260. Kind of puts me in the mind of a little bit of a stiffer Javon Curse, a really explosive speed rusher. And they're going to have these guys there for a long time. These guys, combined with Jonathan Allen and Deron Payne up front, are crushing the pocket. And these are the things you want whenever you're building a team. If you ask any kind of coach, you want a quarterback, you want to be able to get to the quarterback. And they have one element, the most important elements, the second most important element, getting to the quarterback. And I think that they're going to keep on surprising some of these NFL teams. I think they're going to get to Russell. They're going to frustrate him. I know Russell's full with talent, with explosive players around him. DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, Will Disley, Greg Olsen, and I know that they're gonna, and Carson, of course, the running back. They're gonna put up some numbers, but the way you stop that is you get quick pressure up the middle and then flush them and let the defensive ends, go hunt. And I'm just looking forward to it. I mean, Bobby Wagner and their defense are going to do what they do. They're prone to giving up big plays down the field. So keep a lookout for the wide receiver, Terry McLaurin, for the Washington football team. But this is going to be a defensive game. They scored 2 touchdowns, and won the game, which they hadn't done that in almost 30 damn years. So I'm just looking forward to a good game from the Washington football team, and also to continue their streak of 5 wins.
Yeah, I'm on board, man. I got the Redskins here in an upset. I think, you talk about that defensive line. Don't forget, we sprinkle in a little Ryan Kerrigan just for good measure. And, I'll tell you what, if the Washington football team does get into the playoffs and Alex Smith and Antonio Gibson can get healthy, there's a lot of ifs there. But this is going to be a team nobody wants to play. Especially, I think they'll have home field advantage against the wild card because if they do win the division, again, a lot of ifs. But this is a team now starting hot as we get closer to January, and you guys know it's all about riding the hot hand, who gets hot at the right time down the stretch of the season. So I'm on board with the Washington football team. Our NFL game of the week, though, is clearly the Kansas City Chiefs, 12-1 at the New Orleans Saints, 10-3. This is going to be really a class battle. Obviously, Drew Brees not expected to play in this one. We talked about Larry Fitzgerald and the career that he's had. How about the resume that Travis Kelce's building? The first tight end in NFL history with 1,250 receiving yards in 3 separate seasons. Nobody's ever done that in the history of the NFL. So Travis Kelce quietly, maybe not so quietly, building a yellow jacket case here. But, this one has very serious playoff ramifications. Kansas City will clinch a first-round bye with a win and either a Pittsburgh loss and a Buffalo loss or tie. New Orleans clinches the NFC South title with a Tampa Bay loss. So if they can win this game, so John Murphy, who better to do it than you down there in New Orleans?
Yeah. So no Breeze is. I would say I agree. I don't think they're going to press him, to play in this game. Obviously, it's not a great look going into the weekend. Panthers at the Packers would seem like, Green Bay has a pretty kind of easy way there at home to get to 11 wins. And if the Saints then fall behind, you're now, another full game behind because you lost the head-to-head matchup. But I guess you're looking at the bigger picture and saying, like, hey, if we don't have the Drew Brees coming back at some point in our pocket, that's probably not something willing to risk at home. Pretty interesting, rare, in the past 10 years that the Saints are a home underdog and home underdog by 3.5. I might take that extra little half a point there, might be something to look at, for this. But last week, after 55 games of not giving up a 100-yard rusher, they gave up not one but 2, there, Miles Sanders and Jalen Hurts. Now you're coming back against a team where this is what you would need to do. Play your style of game that you played earlier with Taysom Hill. Control the action with Hill, Murray, and Kamara. Keep them off the field. And you're looking at it, amazingly, still the number 1 defense, total defense in the league, and 2 teams that have in the top 10 in terms of, not allowing points to opponents in the league. So the offenses get a lot of credit. But the Chiefs and the Saints are playing better defense this year, than they have at times. And the real big thing that the Saints have is that pass rush, even at home with limited fans, could give the Chiefs offense a bit of a struggle that they haven't faced yet. Eric Fisher's questionable. That would be, another, kind of area to look at on Sunday, in terms of where could the Saints make up the difference where others haven't. And what you look at in the second half of that game last week, after 28-10, it was a whole lot of Dolphins the rest of the way. Now, was that the factor that the Chiefs took their foot off the accelerator? Or was that they were a little more evenly matched up and those big plays weren't there? the Saints have taken that big play away in recent weeks. And if you add the pass rush to it, this could be a better game. And that's the way that you get a Saints to a win. I think this is this is not who I had as a Super Bowl matchup. It's still going to be one of the variables. But in this one, the Chiefs are going to be one up, maybe without Drew Brees. And if they play a second time, it might be with Drew Brees. I think what you've seen, balanced attack out of the Chiefs, gives them enough, to win this game. And then it becomes very interesting in the final 2 weeks if the Saints can figure out a way to get in front of the Packers, because they would need this win, I think, to have a chance to get back over the Packers, because the Panthers will give Green Bay a good run for their money because they've been playing hard all season. Hard to imagine the Panthers getting an upset win. So this is a real bounce back week, where the Saints could come back and score a big W. I think without Drew Brees and just people have started to see what to do with Taysom Hill and how to play against him. The matchup back and forth. It'll be real interesting to see. Do we see a Jameis Winston appearance? Do we see something different? Because after last week, one thing: Sean Payton's not showing up against Andy Reid and the Chiefs unprepared to give them something different to think about. You have to, right? And this is one of those games where you should roll out all of your tricks to try and get a W, because at both of them 11-3, now you have a shot to catch the Packers if they get caught in one of their final 2 games.
Yeah, I think this is going to be an exciting matchup, and I think you might see a little trickanery. And I don't know if that's an onside kick by Coach Payton there or some kind of Philly dilly, but I do anticipate all the tricks coming out of the hat for this one. I think he wants it bad. I think it's a statement game. I think it sets the tone going into the playoffs, and they're going to have to do it with Taysom Hill, who, oh, by the way, I think he had 293 passing through the air. Had no choice to wing it and fling it around the field. So that is your NFL games of the week, and we'll shift gears here on the State of Football, episode 100. Can you believe it, everybody? Our 100th show. Thank you for all the love and the support, the disciples, the friends, the family. Oh, it's just been amazing here. Ric Serritella, John Murphy, Big Law, Lawrence Johnson, Justin VanFulpen here for you on the show. And big shout out to our chat room people, Jesse Frittish. Did I get it, Jesse? With the pronunciation guide. So we got to have the prospect pronunciation guide in the chat room. Of course, Robin Backsab has become a regular. So it's always great to see Robin in the chat room. And Angela Diana, that's a new one. Beautiful name. Guessing you're Italian. Welcome to Paisan.
Paisan.
So it's all brought to you by the NFLDraftBible.com. And, I guess you could call it kind of like the Jim Valvano of morning shows, right? We laugh, we cry, we tell stories. We're all family. We just let it all loose here on the State of Football weekdays, 9 a.m. Eastern, and we appreciate everybody buckling up each and every morning here. Of course, follow us on Twitter, Periscope, Facebook, Instagram. We're streaming live. And in case you haven't heard, we've partnered with TDDR, the Dynasty Draft Room, to bring you the best, most comprehensive, in-depth NFL draft website of all time. And if you're into Devy, and we're going to bring that to the mainstream now and put that at the forefront. It's very, very cool. I don't think anybody's covering it the way we are. So when you package that with the NFL draft, I think you're going to be pleasantly surprised with what we've got coming. And one thing I'm excited about is the over 500 plus scouting reports that we're going to finally get online and bring it to you easily accessible. So stay tuned for that. All right, NCAA championship weekend, probably my favorite weekend of the college football season, and we'll start off there in the Big Ten, the B1G championship here. A little controversy, Justin. Ohio State, NCAA just seems to be bending those rules, making it up as they go along, putting the Buckeyes in the Big Ten championship. They'll host Northwestern, who's always a tough out? How do you kind of see this one playing out?
Well, like you said, the Big Ten originally had a rule that teams had to play 6 games, but they decided to make that change to allow Ohio State to play Northwestern. One of their kind of rationalizations was, hey, even if, as far as Ohio State would have lost to Michigan, they still would have been in the Big Ten championship. Obviously, it's the best chance that the Big Ten can get a national championship. In terms of, as far as Ohio State versus Northwestern, obviously Northwestern has had a great kind of rebound season there. Pat Fitzgerald, always, as far as one of the better coaches in the Big Ten. Many of the NFL teams have looked at him. As far as bigger time programs there in the Power 5 have tried to get Pat Fitzgerald, but he's always kind of stayed loyal to his alma mater there at Northwestern. Obviously, as far as their running game, as far as their Peyton Ramsey, the transfer from Indiana, comes in and gives them some stability at the quarterback position as far as running the ball. As far as their defense, obviously, Patty Fisher, kind of their leader at linebacker. Grant Newsome, who's kind of risen up draft boards, the junior. Now, he hasn't said if he will declare for the NFL draft or will come back to Northwestern, but a lot of people like him, and he's kind of been kind of that rising star there for Northwestern's defense, somebody that people didn't talk about, and now it is talked about as a top 15 type corner in the 2021 NFL draft. But then you flip it on Ohio State side, obviously, as far as kind of just that juggernaut of recruiting. Obviously, they had a top recruiting class here this past week when they signed as far as National Letter of Intent Day. But then obviously Justin Fields, many think, is the number 2 quarterback, and some people even have him ahead of Trevor Lawrence there as being the number 1 prospect in as far as next year's NFL draft there. And obviously the receivers were Chris Olave with as far as Wilson there, in terms of they just have talent over talent on the defensive side of the ball. Obviously have a linebacking core that's been together. Pete Warner, Tuff Borland, as far as just guys that make plays. Sean Wade, obviously, came in with a top, tier grade, and then it's kind of his star has kind of slipped. He hasn't played as well, and that's something that Ohio State's been for is subject to is the big plays. We saw what Indiana was able to do to kind of give them a game. So as far as, Northwestern's got to, put some big plays in there in the passing game. If Ramsey can do that really to give them a chance, but probably doesn't happen. Obviously, Ohio State, if they win, they go on to, as far as the playoffs, being ranked number 4 and got a good shot to win the national title. Depending on their play against whether it's Clemson, Notre Dame, Alabama, but definitely they have kind of NFL talent there, and they always do down there in Columbus.
Yeah, I want to see Ohio State win this game solely for the purpose. I want to be selfish and greedy. I want to see Justin Fields and Trevor Lawrence go at it in the playoffs. I want to see that, and it'll be a fun show if we can get Ohio State into the college football playoffs there. That recruiting class, by the way, we did a great article on the website, NFLDraftBible.com. You can go there and check it out now. My, oh my, Ryan Day. I mean, he there's somebody who was paying attention to good old Urban Meyer during the recruiting process, because, I remember, Greg Schiano's introductory press conference when he came back to Rutgers, and he said, he's like, I thought I knew how to recruit, and then being around Coach Meyer, he's like, I realized I had a lot to learn. And so, Ryan Day did learn it, because they got the number 1 running back, they got the number 1 wide receiver, I think they got the number 3 wide receiver in the nation. Oh, and for good measure, I think they got the number 3 quarterback in the nation, and they've done a great job just kind of reloading from Dwayne Haskins to Justin Fields, and now the next guy who will be competing for a starting job in Ohio State. So, they don't rebuild, they just reload, and I think Ohio State's gonna, not win easily, but I could see them kind of leading the whole game and just taking control. They'll have to, fight off the Wildcats there in the Big Ten championship. So I've got Ohio State advancing. Surprisingly, Iowa State at number 6 in the college football playoffs. They are going to play Oklahoma, who's number 10. John, any shot here? You got the Gators at number 7. We'll take this as a tandem because I tend to believe Alabama is going to just kind of take care of business and win easily over Florida. You tell me if I'm wrong, but any chance Florida at 7? I don't see it. Even if they beat Alabama, I don't know if I can put them in after the LSU loss. But Iowa State, while I don't see a blowout, but let's just say they do win convincingly. Who do you like here, Iowa State or Florida, trying to sneak into the college football playoffs?
Yeah, I did. I thought it was interesting. For Dan Mullen, you might want to just leave Nick Saban alone. No reason to give him any locker room. No reason to give him any, chalkboard material. And then, of course, you had to go ahead and give him one by saying, oh, we'll see where we're at after we win the SEC championship. Okay, we'll see what game you're not going to after you get your ass thumped in the SEC championship. I don't understand why you felt the need to do that. You're never going to get Nick Saban to give you a battle. If you want to win the press conference, that's terrific. You're probably not going to win, on the field when you start doing that stuff with him. So I see his point. They're all, one loss is going to be, against Alabama. Our second loss is to the, defending national champion on the road. Okay. So, versus an Iowa State team, that has a bad loss on their resume, but their loss, that was a bad loss, is against a team that's ranked and won their conference. So not sure about that one. If anybody's going to be, upset in this scenario, Cincinnati wins a conference title against Tulsa and probably still finishes no better than 6 or 7, in this scenario. And then I think Florida has a hard time, getting past or over A&M because A&M beat them. Right. So to me, that's kind of the stopping point to this. And then, like I said, if you give Alabama, I think they got it. Right. I think that's even a bigger stretch for me to believe Florida beats Alabama than Northwestern beating Ohio State. Because Indiana gave you a viewpoint of how you might be able to do it if you could force a couple of turnovers and keep the margin, like stop the game from being a tit-for-tat score fest back and forth and make it be more of a football game in the meat and potatoes part, and stuff. And for Northwestern, survive the first quarter. Don't be down 14-0. Don't be down 10-0 in the first 10 minutes or so of the game and get yourself out of rhythm. If you can play your style offensively and your defense can just get them off the field a couple of times, make it a game. I could see Northwestern holding Ohio State to a game more than Florida, because I think Alabama just takes them to the shed, in terms of how many points they can score back and forth. So the interesting one becomes Clemson's out. If they lose twice, but it's twice to a top 3 team, they're probably out to a one-win Aggies, one-loss Aggies team. But they're both going to be in if Clemson wins. So no one's getting a spot here if Clemson comes back and wins on a neutral site with their quarterback. That's what you're going to get. So the only chance of an opening coming here is Northwestern upsetting Ohio State or Notre Dame doubling down on Clemson. And then they have a really interesting decision. Clemson losing to Notre Dame twice with Trevor Lawrence. Iowa State beating Oklahoma twice and having the best season Iowa State's had in forever. Or a one-loss A&M team that is a really good football team, but if they have to play Alabama, it'd be a really tough road to say that if you put A&M in against Alabama, and that's the 1-4 matchup, they're going to be 20-point underdogs. So is that the matchup you want? Iowa State, at least a 2-touchdown underdog. If you put a 2-loss Clemson team against Alabama, some interesting stuff could happen. Right? So it's kind of funny to see the politics, right? We've seen the politics happen before in college basketball. If Trevor Lawrence returns and it's a good game and they lose, will they say, could you imagine the ratings for Notre Dame Clemson 3? Could you imagine the rank, the things for Alabama Clemson semifinal? So Dan Mullen, don't worry about what'll happen if you win. You still may get beat out by a 2-loss team, so, and it might be a 2-loss team that's already in the top 4 to begin with, there, because that's going to be real interesting, because you saw Clemson could not run the ball as well as they have all season against Notre Dame, and they struggled against their pass rush. And the one thing that's happened is you have your quarterback, but think about this, as good as Trevor Lawrence is, go back and look at the numbers that freshman kid, he threw for 480, something, so you can't say that he was the reason they lost.
No, I don't think there was a big drop off there.
And the one thing that's happened, I know it's a death blow to David Turner and Ryan Roberts. The one thing that's happened somehow in that game is Ian Book found out how to throw the ball vertically.
Yeah.
Right? And ever since then, it hasn't stopped. So we could see another 40-40. It's going to be another one of those high-scoring games, because you've seen both of these teams are different but better versions of themselves than they were when we saw that 47-40 matchup, because you have to give the credit to Lawrence as the upperclassman. But at the same time, you're seeing week after week a different guy making a play on defense. Suddenly McKinley, is out there, making plays. Suddenly they're going down the field with the 2 tight ends, 2 different running backs, Ian Book using his legs to extend the plays. I don't see why this is not another all the way to the wire, high-scoring affair. Last team with the ball wins, and then you're really going to give the voters something to chew on to say, do you really think a 2-loss Clemson team doesn't basically beat Iowa State on the field? Yes. Florida? Yes. Cincinnati? Yes. And then you're really going to put one of them over them? I'm not sure Clemson doesn't get the 4 spot, regardless of what happens tomorrow.
Well, I think if Clemson wins, we're looking at like a Rocky Balboa, Apollo Creed trilogy. But Big Law, you're down there in ACC country, and I think there is one scenario though. Like, what if there's a blowout involved?
Yeah, absolutely. Is there a blowout involved? First, let me say this: the NCAA has totally dropped the ball on this. In a COVID year where you can do anything, you can try anything, and they're bending rules, like you said, this is the year they should have had 8 teams. All right, if there was ever a year to put in extra teams for the playoff, this was it. I mean, like you said, you're looking at Texas A&M, Iowa State, Florida, Georgia, Cincinnati, Oklahoma. All these squads are on the outside looking in. If the certain scenario you're taking that you're talking about takes place, and right now you're talking about a blowout. I think if there is a blowout, it's a Clemson blowout. I think Clemson, they have taken this on the chin so hard. I think that, their defensive coordinator and their defensive players are feeling like, man, we are a lot better than what we were. And I know Notre Dame is full of talent all over the place. Kyron Williams, Javon McKinley, Ben Skowronek, and Michael Meyer, the incredible freshman tight end. They're explosive. I mean, they can do pretty much anything they want to do on the field with Ian Book, running the show. But just like you said, Ian Book is throwing the ball better than I've ever seen him throw the ball, which I still can't, come up with a theory on why he's throwing that much better. But for right now, having Trevor Lawrence back, number one, that's a motivating factor. That's a something that I feel that the team is going to rally around him. You're right. The freshman threw for almost 500 yards, John, and he was off the charts. But I think, having Trevor Lawrence may give them some plays that were not there, even though it was a lot of yards. Maybe there's some plays and some experience plays or some things that you can do with Trevor Lawrence that you couldn't do with him. Also, Travis Etienne, the running year, he's had a down year, and I think that he needs another breakout game to reestablish himself as the best or one of the best running backs, or maybe the top 2, top 3 running backs coming out this year. And also, Amari Rodgers is going to, continue to beat people deep. I'm just looking for, Notre Dame to take a step back, believe it or not, at 10-0. All right. And it's really going to come down to the defense of Clemson putting together a masterpiece of a game plan. Balen Spector, Andrew Booth, we're talking to you. We're looking at you. We're looking for you guys to make some big plays to come up and slow this team down. And, and I'm not going to say a blowout, but I'm looking for a 2-touchdown victory over this Notre Dame Fighting Irish.
Well, they're double-digit favorites. So, we'll see what happens. It's going to be interesting to see how this game unfolds, how the whole college football weekend plays out. And, I think one thing I think is for sure.
The other side of that equation, though, the thing of, having Trevor Lawrence playing is that you've had to hear the biggest win that you've had in 20-something years. You've heard now for that whole period of time,
you didn't have it.
You beat him without Trevor Lawrence. And
right.
Then you go undefeated for the entire season, and you're a 10.5-point dog? All right. Okay.
So
great drama.
Points.
That's
beautiful. That is beautiful. Great drama. I love it.
That's kind
drama.
of that I don't know we'd have to find another matchup where you could say you lost, and now you're playing a neutral site game, and to say that that's the margin, hey, I think you're playing smart money if you're Vegas, because you're getting a ton of action, in that scenario. Because I think a lot of people do think that the first matchup, that's what would have happened. Trevor Lawrence in that scenario, and they're playing, even though it was in Notre Dame, I think people expected, a Clemson 2-score, 42-28, something along that margin. So they're just thinking, well, hey, here we are. Give them Trevor Lawrence. It's a different result.
Well, 35-3 career record, I think, at Clemson as a starter. Justin, you care to weigh in? Where do you go? Clemson, Notre Dame here, double-digit dogs, number 2 in the nation.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you look at just as far as talent for talent, NFL style, Clemson's probably got a little bit more. Notre Dame's got some, definitely NFL guys there. Quarterback versus quarterback, you're going to take Clemson. Running back, you're going to take Clemson. The receivers, you're going to take Clemson. So at the end of the day, I think it's going to be a close game, but I would take Clemson, maybe not by 10, but by, 3 to 7 type range there. But it's going to be a good game tomorrow there in Charlotte.
Yeah, and where the number one competition is on that is not currently anywhere in the vicinity slided toward Notre Dame? Head coach. Head coach. Now, don't get me wrong. I am, where I want this game to go. But that guy, number one, he's the best head coach in the country. Number 2, it is really hard to listen to him, how he interacts with his players, how he does his job, and not want to root for that guy to just keep having success. Right?
Well,
I mean, you see the relationships that he has. You go see that story about him and Tanner Muse. Try to make it through that without cutting some onions, and stuff. You see that, how much when he goes into somebody's home and tells those parents he's going to bring them back better than, what they're leaving with, and he keeps delivering on that, as much or more than he's delivering on the field. And you just see the interaction he had with those kids, when he sees them lose, a heartbreaker like that at Notre Dame, knowing that they're without their best players, and stuff like that. I mean, he's a really hard guy to root against there, but that would be, quite a feather in the cap, when you hear, Turner has every right to kind of, take it and, kind of keep jabbing at, Notre Dame's coaching staff. But that would be quite an accomplishment to think that you have an opportunity to beat Dabo Swinney twice in one regular season, even if it is a one and done. You do that, you might have had one of the best seasons ever in the ACC if you beat Clemson twice. And one, and one of them being in a quote unquote neutral site in Charlotte, not so neutral site, because if they're allowing any fans in there, there's going to be a lot of orange. Just don't forget, the guy watching from up top, he ain't rooting for Clemson. Remember that one.
No, not to mention that, Disney has a story on the Clemson program.
Right.
Well, so
yep.
Clemson is everything right
now.
Yeah,
that's an excellent story too.
Yes. So that's definitely something. It's all about Clemson right now. Can they, return of the king? Can they reclaim their throne? This year in a crazy COVID year. I'm looking forward to seeing it at 4:00, man. ABC. Check your ABC affiliate. Let's get it, man. Let's go.
Justin, you were going to say something. Go ahead.
No, but could this be in terms of standpoint of John was talking about Dabo Swinney? Could this be hey, kind of he's done and he's headed to the NFL? Many rumors of him, going, for his teams like the Jacksonville Jaguars being very interested in him, the New York Jets being very interested in him, kind of a Trevor Lawrence there. Obviously, Dabo's, done some great things at Clemson, but is it a pull to go to the NFL? And if he wanted to make that move right now, would be that move where he could say, okay, hey, I can pick my quarterback there. So could this potentially be one of Dabo Swinney's last games at Clemson?
Wait a minute, you said Dabo Swinney going to the NFL?
Yeah.
And then you mentioned the Jags and the Jets. Are we? Is that going to the NFL if you have to go coach the Jags or the Jets?
Well, I know Brian Kelly's already logged off the show, but here's what I got to tell you. Joe Douglas, if you're watching, hit me up, and we will recruit Dabo to Jersey. I'll tell him why he needs to come to Jersey. And I think the only possibility is Trevor Lawrence has got to be a package deal. So you hold on tight to that number one pick. You call me up. I will recruit Dabo to Jersey. You hear me, Joe?
Justin might be right. They may have more talent than Notre Dame. They sure the hell have more talent than the Jets.
Well,
there's more pro talent on Clemson right now than there's on the Jets. I guarantee you that.
Well, when I look at it, I'm thinking, what the backroom conversations are like. After this game, imagine what Trevor Lawrence and Dabo Swinney are gonna talk about. Are you gonna go, man? If you go, I go. All right, and if he's gonna be, if he does go, he's gonna really put me in the mind of like an East Coast Pete Carroll. The way that he coaches, he's motivating. He's kind of a fiery guy. You don't really think of him like, oh, he's a true X's and O kind of a coach, whether he's a defensive coordinator, offensive coordinator. He's like a true motivator, similar to like how Pete Carroll runs his team and just loads up with talent. And then he, does a good job of being like a CEO of the team.
Well, Trevor Lawrence is as good as gone. I mean, they honored the guy at Clemson Senior Day, so you know what that means. Wow, breaking news! Wow, breaking news.
What we have.
And for those of you who benched Justin Herbert in favor of Taysom Hill and for their fantasy football playoffs, like I did last night, this is not going to be good news. Just came down the wire. Drew Brees expected to start against the Kansas City Chiefs.
Man.
John says that's not a good idea. I see it in his face.
Man. 11 broken ribs, huh? That's pretty miraculous. if your ribs are, if you had 11 broken ribs or 11 fractures in your rib cage and you're better after 3 weeks, 4 weeks, man, that's amazing.
Hey, no one has ever really gone in depth, but him and Brady really must have their hands on some really good stuff. Let's just leave it at that. Because the rest of us are growing looking like this, and those two are going the other way.
You see, they found the fountain of youth.
Found something. They found something. Woo.
Unbelievable. I can't imagine he gets through that game in one piece. And
the one thing that we mentioned, like when it happened, right? Because everybody then says, "Oh, if that's if that happened, if that's me, I'm cashing out." Like, hey, go to the TV, right? You might have gone there. I think that might have been Rick's take on it. Hey, 11, go to the TV contract. You got a TV deal. These guys, like, they almost need something like that, right? Like Brady likes, like in Brady's warped world, he likes nothing more that he went to Tampa and that they're having some strife, and that the guy that's coaching thinks he's smarter than Brady is. Thinks he's a better coach than Brady is a quarterback. Like Brady kind of likes that stuff, right? It's like they need to get to like the top of the mountain and then see that there's another mountain across that looks like it might be higher, and the rest of us would go, okay, let's get down. We got here, let's go down now. And they're like, oh no, let's go over there and climb that one too. Right? And I think this is another one of those scenarios where Breeze is like, they're counting me out. They like this CrossFit version of me, Taysom Hill, that's out there, looking, looks like I did when I was 20, looks like I did, does all the things that I could do, just looks like he's a big jacked up version of me. Okay, oh, hey, you thought that was pretty cool. He threw for 292. We're at home, we're a dog, and we're playing a 12-1 Chiefs team. All right, Mahomes, let me show you. Let me show you how it's done. Let me give you a little insight into how things are going. Right, because I think
part of this is on Sean Payton too, though, because he's got to allow that, he's got to give the go ahead, right? And now, in a way, he's kind of rolling it up. He's risking the season here because
yeah, maybe, but you know what? The equity in that relationship is the same. If I told Justin I need him to come down and be my Uber driver for the weekend, he's showing up. You know what I mean? You know why? Because there's equity in that relationship. He's coming down. He wants to see what happens. He wants to enjoy the ride, even if it's from the front seat, right? So it's the same thing. If he walks in the office and says, he's not walking in saying, hey, Coach Payton, can I play? Drew Brees is walking in there and saying, it's my job. See you Sunday. And that's just their relation. Like you have to know who that is, and if you can pull that kind of swagger off to be like, yeah, it was worse than what I thought, but maybe not as bad as what everybody else is, because you can't judge yourself with 11 fractures to your ribs. We'd see Big Law at the 2024 draft. Right?
Exactly.
We can't even get Turner on the show when he's got one injury. Let alone 11 broken ribs.
Yeah,
but for Drew Brees, that's like, well, 3 weeks is like 2 weeks too long. Right? So, they're just a different breed of person and personality and concept. And now what I would say, if we went back 23 minutes earlier in the show, now if you're giving the Chiefs not a full version of Brees, but like Brees and Hill, that is a conflicting scenario to get prepared for Sunday.
Yeah, and I think that's the big thing there is I think we'll see some of Drew Brees and some of that passing attack there, some of that pocket stuff, but it'll be getting the ball away quick. Then we'll pull more of the wildcat, more of that run, more of those flex type of things there with with Taysom Hill there. And I think in terms of, but I think what also Sean Payton had seen was, Taysom Hill got exposed with against the Philadelphia Eagles and some of the throws and some of the mistakes that Taysom Hill made along the way, even in that win against the Falcons, Drew Brees won't make those same mistakes. So just to have him in there really can just kind of be that captain of the ship there to be able to really help New Orleans win. And again, John said it wasn't his Super Bowl pick, but if we go roll the tape, this was my Super Bowl pick when we started as far as the previews, the New Orleans Saints versus the Kansas City Chiefs, and I'm still sticking with that. This is a Super Bowl preview that we'll see on Sunday.
There you go. What a way to round things up. And don't forget, he had a punctured lung in addition to 11 broken ribs. So Drew Brees, the real Superman of the day. A couple loose ends I want to tie up here. Number 23, Tulsa, at number 9, Cincinnati in the AAC championship. Even if Cincinnati blows them out, they got no shot at the college football playoffs. They'll just have to go ahead and anoint themselves like Scott Frost and UCF did a couple years ago. And, unfortunately, we're running out of time, so we can't give you the full in-depth preview, but a few Friday night lights to cover here. If you're into football, we got some good games to pay attention to tonight. If you checked out Ryan Roberts' mailbag yesterday, then he discussed Spencer Brown, the UAB running back in length, who, has looked really, really the best of his career. And he had a bust-out breakout freshman season, struggled with some injuries, came back about 20 pounds lighter this year, and has just been, rumbling, bumbling, stumbling. They will visit Marshall, who, keep an eye out on that freshman quarterback there. I think his name is Grant Wells. He's got pro potential. And then, Ball State versus Buffalo. If you're into overs, I mean, this one's got points written all over it. The wide receiver there, what is it? Justin Hall at Ball State, I believe. He's a big time playmaker. He's a guy that's going to be playing on Sundays. And if you're a fan of the show, then you already know. But if you're just tuning in for the first time, the Jarrett Patterson train has left the station. And, he's going to put some points on the board. Antonio Nunn at wide receiver. We've got Malcolm Kuntz on the defensive side, a couple of offensive linemen there for the Buffalo Bulls to pay attention to. And then, Oregon at number 13, USC. Little late night action on the West Coast. Of course, Keaton Slovis and Tyler Shuck, two guys that may be eligible for the 2022 or 2023 drafts. Some potential, future franchise quarterbacks to keep an eye on there. And, I saved the best for last. Chop. Oh, my God. Can you believe that Tennessee turned down? They reneged their deal with Greg Schiano because of a fan pushback, right? We don't want Greg Schiano. We don't want Greg Schiano because he was an intern back in the day with Joe Paterno, and they're trying to blame Greg Schiano on Jerry Sandusky. And guess what? Rutgers wins tonight. They got more wins than Tennessee this year. Bowl eligible. Justin, I know you said everybody's bowl eligible, but hey, Rutgers is going to be bowl eligible. And Noah Vedrell, taking the limelight here against his former team at Piscataway. You coming into the jersey. Chop. You're going to have to climb the fence to escape the garden here tonight. Nebraska at Rutgers. So anybody out there listening, if you're wondering why I don't get back to your text messages, I'm busy. Okay? Got it? All right, it's the State of Football. It's episode 100. What a fun show it's been. Parting shots, and we're going a little OT, but it's time to reminisce and have some fun. This show began as a kind of, bringing you into the football world and would we have a season? What's it going to look like? At the time, there was conferences opting out. The Big Ten wasn't going to play. The Pac-12 wasn't going to play. What would happen to the other three P5? Meanwhile, the FCS is opting to play in the spring. The NFL, we didn't know. Hey, we've got $75 million to pump into COVID tests. We're going to get it done. And here we are, week 15. Zero game cancellations in the NFL. Incredible. But the State of Football continues to keep on churning, and we ain't going nowhere, baby. We ain't stopping. We don't know how to stop. We can't stop. We won't stop until I drop, and that's just going to be the way it is here on the State of Football. So, part 100, and of course, Justin VanFulpen, a repeat guest here, but it's been a while. Justin, what do you got for the listening audience for your parting shot here today?
Well, I think you mentioned it, that quarterback Grant Wells tonight. Watch him there at Marshall. I think he's an NFL type talent there. One guy people aren't mentioning that will be a first-round pick in that Cincinnati-Tulsa game is Zaven Collins, just a dominant guy there. He's a guy who, as far as arrows up there, and again, somebody that has kind of come out of nowhere to go from a second-round pick and now probably a top 25 draft pick there. So we've got a lot of, as far as NFL-style guys we're watching with the NFL draft, obviously with the NFL Draft Bible, covering it all. And we look forward to watching more football tonight and into the weekend.
Yeah, Zaven Collins, a guy that we've been kind of tooting that horn now for quite a while. Allie Green the fourth, that cornerback there, senior. I don't know what it is. He just doesn't seem to get the love. But he's going to be playing football on Sunday. I think he gets drafted. But Big Law, Lawrence Johnson down there in Hampton Roads.
Yeah, man.
EA. Host of Woo World Radio, 7 City Shop Talk, NFL Draft Bible Tailgate. The resume is just expanding here in 2020. Big of course, you'll be live tomorrow, 10 a.m. Eastern, with the fellas, John Murphy, Ryan Roberts, David Turner, fresh out of ankle surgery. He'll be joining you one leg up. What do you got for the parting shots here on this Football Friday edition?
Yeah, resume is getting bigger, man. I appreciate you inviting me into the family, and I just continue to look forward to our growing relationship with this football thing. Now, we're just speaking about Drew Brees. He's learning from the school of Alex Smith, of just coming back from miraculous things. And that is a game that I have my eyes on even more so now that from that breaking news. But I will tell you this. This is a holiday season. I guess we'll be on notice to see if we're going to do a show next Friday, being that it's the 25th. So, but I will let everybody know that love everybody. Make sure you do the right thing. This is the holidays. You got people out there hurting and struggling, especially in this crazy year of COVID that we're in. If you can do something for somebody, please go out of your way and do it. I'm doing some charitable events this weekend and have been for this entire month. We have our toy drive culminating Saturday from 12 to 9 at the Chimney Hill Shopping Center. If you do want to donate, you still can. We're giving away all types of things to these young people, these young kids, and helping these mothers and parents out that are having a hard time during this year. So just letting you guys know, just have a good time with it. Take care of everybody. Happy holidays to you. We love you. And thanks for bringing me in, Rick.
No, and I don't want to gloss over that too, because you're doing bigger, better, and greater things than what we're doing here on the show. And I was going through a difficult time, but I saw you on Facebook. I saw you on social media, what you're doing in the community there. How can people contribute? How can people help out to the toy drive? And I saw you racked up a big tab on toys already.
Yeah.
How can people get in on the action?
What they could do is either cash at me or, well, pretty much just cash at me at this point. We're still kind of in the early stages of building it, but we wanted to try to get this going, this whole giving going right now, because everybody needs help right now. We're also working with mothers, battered mothers, and it's just growing, and going into 2021, it'll be a full-blown operation and schedule, on what we're going to do. We're going to help those with PTSD, night terrors, homeless. We're going to still give toys for the next holiday. So we'll have different events, maybe 6 or 7 times throughout the year. So, but this last quarter is when we really started to really ramp up, and this is queuing up to be a really good opportunity to help out a lot of kids and mothers for the holiday and parents.
All right, we'll talk more offline, because I want to get involved and be a part of that situation, and that's what we do here on the NFL Draft Bible. Again, episode 100, and we are coming to you live here from New Jersey, from Virginia, from New Orleans, from Michigan. We're not only coast to coast, we're international. We're reaching the global audience. Heck, we've got staff now out in Germany and all
Lars.
the scouting lens over there. It's just amazing what we're building. We've got podcasts coming out now 7 days a week, video live streams multiple times per day. The content is just around the clock now on NFLDraftBible.com. And as bad of a year as 2020 has been, I promise you this. Next year will be our 20th anniversary for the NFL Draft Bible. It'll be our 20th draft cycle. And I can guarantee you one thing. It's going to be the greatest year in NFL Draft Bible history. What we have on deck, what we have on tap, I just can't wait to bring it to you. And I know I don't mean to tease you. I'm not allowed to talk about it yet, but when we announce it, you'll see what I mean. But, this show really has been a blessing. John came to me during the summer once the CFL was furloughed. He had a little bit of spare time on his hands, to say the least. And he said, what? Why don't we just do a daily show, cover the state of football, what's going on in the world, football universe? I said, man, what a great idea. And I said, figured we'll do it and see what happens. And here we are 100 episodes later. I can't wait until we're 1,000 episodes later, but parting shot for the people, John.
Well, like you just said, just another great idea brought to you by me.
John.
I mean, so first off, I'd like to start by thanking myself for thinking about it. Then I'd like to thank myself for sharing it with Rick. Then I'd like to thank myself for telling Rick we could have Justin as a guest. So I mean, really, when it boils down to it, just say thank you. Like every week when I take the picks from Rick and just say thank you. So, I mean, that's been the best part of it. The worst part of it for Rick is that, well, he has to make his picks every week from second place. Well, there's only two of us, so that means from last place. And the other thing we need to mention is, for sure, we will 100% support what Big Law is doing, but we will not be donating any of Ryan Roberts' mock drafts or David Turner's podcast, because we don't need to do that to those folks. They're already struggling enough. We don't need to give them gifts like that. Right? That would just be mean and cruel and not what we're doing. But really, at the end of the day, this is 40 plus years, and well, the two guys up above, got about 40 of the years, and Big Law's got about 6 months worth of friendship here. But it all came from the same place, right? When all of us first met, it was trying to get into business and what each one of us was doing. So it would not be shocking. It would have been shocking back then to have probably told any of us that 20 years later, we were still having that opportunity to make that work and to make things go. But this is why it's worked. This is why, everybody has had an opportunity to do things in the businesses, that when situations arose or situations, came about, whether it's the smallest thing, like missing a report or needing something that, the other person had, a phone number, Justin, on the regular, I'm texting him, asking him a question about something that I don't have, access to that he may be aware of or know. And then really, the most proudest part of it was what we all did the last couple of weeks, right? In the biggest moment, when one of us needed everybody else to step up, I would say that the biggest thing that I got out of that in the last couple of weeks was how everybody stepped up to the table when Rick needed us. And I can certainly say, speaking for myself, it was an honor and a pleasure to be able to know that when somebody expected you to, kind of step up and do the right thing and be there for you. We say it a lot. We joke about, that it's the Draft Bible family and such, but, the factor that we were able to kind of show that in, across the board, even though we joke around about it a lot, the fact that we were able to show up and do that means a lot. And I think the best part moving forward is there's some young guy that's involved in this, whether it's Ryan, who we joke about, or Dakota Follett, or somebody in this new group of things who's literally us when we first met. And I'm really anxious to see which one of those guys, which one of those people, is able to do that. And, right now, if you're listening, Joe DeLeon kind of has a head start, on the rest of y'all. So if you want to see, what it means when you get your chance, show up like Joe DeLeon when we stick him in the lineup and, he doesn't fumble the snap. So I think to me, that's the best part of looking forward, to what we're doing. And to answer your question, Big Law, I mean, they just got to open some presents next Friday. They can't even go.
That's right. That's right. My man.
Well, thanks, John. I mean, you hit the nail on the head. It's, I felt the need to come back this week, but it was rough. It was a rough week for me, and I appreciate you guys stepping up. But I just think back on all the great guests we've had, all the people that we've reached, and all the great things we've been able to accomplish together. And here's to the next 100 episodes, and we'll catch you tomorrow, everybody, on the NFL Draft Tailgate Show, 10 a.m. with Big Law, John Murphy, David Turner, and Ryan Roberts. So have fun with the gang. I'll be tuning in. I hope you do too. And we'll see you over at NFLDraftBible.com.